I would now like to introduce today's presenters. Akshat Vaid is a partner and leads engineering services, research and advisory at Everest Group. In this role, Akshat assists global enterprises on a variety of initiatives across engineering, technology, outsourcing, and ecosystem engagement. Mayank Maria is Vice President of the Engineering Services team and assists clients on topics related to engineering spending and outsourcing across key verticals, including automotive, high-tech, industrial, and medical devices. Susmita Devisetti is a senior analyst in the engineering services team at Everest Group. She leads the research on automotive engineering. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Akshat.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I know all of you are participants in the global automotive industry, or at the very least, you're mobility enthusiasts. So welcome to today's webinar. This is on navigating the automotive engineering landscape with a very specific focus on the theme of this decade and maybe many to come, which is autonomous, connected, electric, and shared mobility, and where this is all leading, which is software-defined vehicles, right? I, along with my two colleagues, Mayank and Sushmita, I'm thrilled to be your host for this discussion today, which is all about the world of automotive engineering. So thank you for joining us. Our agenda for today is actually fairly simple and straightforward. What we intend to do is talk about the major trends in this whole evolution in the automotive engineering world, which is focused on this ACES space, like I said. We'll spend some time understanding what's going on there, what are the themes, how is the enterprise world really taking this, and what's the spending like, what are the variety of drivers towards this push, and so on. We'll go next into understanding where is this leading. Like I said, we all know vehicle is fundamentally changing. It's becoming software defined. So we'll talk a little about that. Then we'll also speak about how, while this transformation is playing out, what are the roadblocks along the way, and what are potentially some mitigation strategies that people can look at, right? So those three, with a lot of further deep dives, are largely what we're going to talk about today. Hopefully towards the end, we'll have some more time to answer some questions, right? So let's get rolling. I think we stand at a juncture where automotive engineering is fundamentally transforming. It's becoming smart, interconnected, self-driving. Self-driving entities are on the road today. It's a big transformational shift from where things stood not more than a decade ago, right? It's a world where also sustainability, efficiency, they are at the core of the evolution of the mobility space. So maybe let's take a moment to reflect on this incredible journey of automotive engineering over the years. It actually goes back nearly 150 years into history. So over a century or more than that ago, this is between 1880 and 1960, over this 80 odd years time frame. The automotive landscape, it was really dominated by, let me call it the roaring combustion engine, right? So every development and innovation that we saw, it was really around perfecting this incredible invention, right? It was a time of discovery. A lot of things were, being invented along the way, and all was towards this introduction of a new paradigm, which is personal transportation, so to speak, right? So fast forward 25 years from there, electrification started to take center stage. When I say electrification here, I don't mean to say anything which is around the powertrain or how the power is being generated and how the vehicle is, driving further. It's more about how electrification introduced a lot of features. So it could be, around general comfort, or features like power windows, or around safety, could also be around entertainment, right? So essentially, in a way, vehicle was not just now, something to drive you from point A to point B, but it was also about how comfortable and how luxurious the experience could be, right? In a couple of decades that followed from that era, we saw new features which began to emerge, right? A lot of those things around driver assistance, co-pilot systems, right? Essentially, how do you make vehicles more and more connected? How do they themselves become connectivity hotspots, right? That was the mainstay. Now, from 2015 onwards, we've seen a monumental shift in automotive engineering. The focus has clearly shifted towards three, four big themes. And we're going to talk about them in a bit, right? But largely around autonomy, intelligence, connectivity. This is an era where the genesis of the self-driving vehicle, right? Where a vehicle can drive on the road without much of a human intervention. That's redefining the future of mobility. Right? And along with that, we're also seeing this whole shift towards sustainability and how do you make the whole world of transportation relatively lighter on the environment, so to speak. So that's where we are. And we can start going deeper into this, but maybe the best way to start this is to look at what is it that we are talking about. What is this space of ACES, right? So ACES is really an acronym. I think I mentioned a couple of times already, but it stands for Autonomous, Connected, Electric, and Shared Mobility. And in many occasions, you perhaps would have seen the same thing being called as CASE, stand for the same thing. These are the four building blocks. So let's very quickly talk about each one of them. So starting with autonomous. So autonomous vehicles are essentially the ones where a lot of technologies, a combination of them could be AI, could be computer vision, GPS, right? A lot of those things, these technologies come together through a phenomena called sensor fusion to make sure that the cars can sense the surroundings. A lot of things which exist out there could be traffic conditions, could be pedestrians, signage on the roads, other vehicles, right? Looking at all of them in a spirit to ensure that the vehicle has the ability to to be driven on its own without having another human being drive it, right? That's a big change in cars. That's something that had never happened before, if you keep aside the last few years, right? The second big thing is connectivity, and I think this is in the broader sense, the whole world is getting connected. We as people on earth, right? There are lots of ways in which we are also getting connected through all the developments from a technological standpoint that hasn't been kept away from the world of vehicles as well. So now cars have a lot of embedded sensors and processors, and from a connectivity standpoint, communication modules as well. Essentially what that does is this allows for a lot of collection and exchange of data, and that opens up lots of doors and possibilities around new features, newer personalization, connectivity with the rest of the world, right? Lot of things can happen around that. The third big thing is electrification. So this is where that whole push towards sustainability comes in. Understanding that perhaps electrification, as long as the electricity itself is coming from, would mean that can be a potential means to make sure that all the environmental aspects which have always been related with combustion engines and the potential for them to pollute the environment, those get eradicated, right? So this is essentially a push towards looking at rechargeable batteries and day driving vehicles. And there are lots of types of them, fully electric or hybrids and others, but that's another aspect in which the global world of automotive engineering is really developing. The last bit is share, right? Lots of reasons for it. Some of them are more around, ownership, or, the capital outlay that some of it requires. Others are also environmental in nature, but essentially this is about how can you share vehicles or, bikes and scooters and others to fulfill your mobility needs, right? It could be in a lot of ways. It could be around, through rentals or subscriptions, or could be on-demand models as well, right? So, but these are broadly the four key things which are transforming the world of automotive engineering, so to speak. So I must say that, as a phenomena, this automotive evolution around these four spaces, and also SDV, while we'll talk about that separately a little later, this is not something that just the engineers or maybe, the people who are spending on engineering are excited about. The world has acknowledged, right? A lot of organizations and forums have acknowledged, and you can read some of the commentary on the screen. We thought we'd lay out some of it for you. to make sure that you understand that this transformation is real and it is here to stay, right? Whether it is from a policy standpoint, whether it is from the standpoint of, how do we need to adopt this? What would this mean in terms of consumer behavior, and how does all of that need governance? There is a lot of development which is being seen in the ecosystem, right? So well, yeah, I mean, OEMs are excited, engineers are excited, the tier one, tier two, tier three community is excited. What you can see on the screen is a lot of organizational and perhaps even policy level transformation, which we've already seen, which we already see kind of coming in place. But I think at the most fundamental level, this is being driven by the consumer theme, right? Consumers need it. They understand that all these developments can fundamentally alter the way they have been, exposed to the world of automobiles rather. So let's go deeper into it. And I think the best way to have that conversation is to do a bit of a sense check with the people who are here in the webinar itself, right? So let's do a quick poll. This is essentially about understanding what influences consumer choices today as far as looking at a vehicle is concerned. So there are lots of options that you can see on screen. Some of them are more related to the ACES themes. Some of them are more general. They've applied for almost forever. In a way, you could say they are traditional in nature. So you just want to understand how people are looking at these themes. People in this case, the audience that we have here as a representative set. Right? So we'll keep this open for maybe another 15 seconds and let's see, what the responses show up. Another 5 seconds and then we'll put it to a close. Okay, we can close it now. So yeah, let me, I don't know if everybody can see the outcome, but let me bring this out. The highest focus, as it is obvious, is on safety features, advanced safety features, infotainment and connected car technology. I see a lot of ADAS focus on, some which is more relatively lower level around lane detection and parking assistance, a lot of it on autonomous as well. Electric got a lot of ticks. Some of the standard things like styling and color. Interestingly, nobody cares about top speed. Only one respondent said they care about it. So anyways, I mean, makes sense, to be honest. I mean, we weren't expecting this to be any different. This is essentially where the world of automotive consumption is going, and obviously engineering follows consumption. So in that spirit, let's look at what the engineering looks like. So I think many of you would know automotive is a big engineering spend area. If you look at the global world of ER&D, engineering research and development, we estimate it to be about $1.4 trillion in global spending. Of that, automotive is a big component. Nearly 200 billion is the spending that we see coming in from the automotive world. Right? Naturally, it's a very intense engineering product which is required to build automobiles. Right. So, but I think key thing to see here is the fundamental shift that has occurred in the spending behavior. What you see here on the screen is the orange and the whatever shade of blue that is. Nearly 50% of the engineering spend is going into ACES, autonomous, connected, electric, and shared. So it's a big shift. This spend would have perhaps been in single digits not more than 5 to 7 years ago. And as it stands today, OEMs and tier ones and others, they're spending nearly half of their dollars. So nearly, 80, 90 billion dollars are being spent in this space. And clearly, this is growing fundamentally as well. We expect this to continue growing in double digits. It's the last few years have seen around 25, 22% growth. And over a prolonged period of time, we have extrapolated this to 2025. But I think, if we stretch it further out, say around 2030, 35, I don't see this changing much, right? So it's going to be a significant spend area on a continued basis, over the coming many years. But what is really driving this behavior, right? Lots of factors contribute to this shift in spending behavior. Starting with, I think I'm going to pick one which is middle of the screen, which is consumer demand, right? There are a lot of things which happen which support, which enable, that shift. But at the core of it, I think the need in the market for more sustainable, more connected, convenient transportation, which is technologically advanced. I think that's what's defining this. And then everything else is falling in place. I mean, had this demand come in 30 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible because the technology wasn't mature. There weren't, that many sensors or connectivity that was available to make it happen. On the other side, if you look at the enterprise world, there is a lot of competition. It has always been a very competitive market, the automotive world, but the ACES themes are enabling a whole new breed of companies to come in and really differentiate themselves against the incumbents. And that's causing a lot of trouble. So hence, naturally, a lot of net new investment, net new dollars being spent on both sides, the new firms as well as the incumbents. There are, regulatory shifts as well. So there are stricter regulations on emissions, for example. So the whole push towards electric vehicles, while the technology has existed for a while, but the key significant shift is happening now, not before, and a lot of regulatory push and consumer awareness around that, is aligned to it. There's also an element of improved safety and efficiency. People have always really admired that aspect as as something that they need from vehicles. So the ACES developments, as long as they lead to reduced human errors and accidents, especially the autonomous part, I think that's something that people really appreciate. But anyways, I mean, that's where things are. That's how the market is evolving. What we're going to do now is we're going to spend some time going deeper into each one of these four themes: autonomous, electric, connected, and shared. And to do that, I'm going to call my colleague Sushmita. Sushmita, over to you. Yeah, please take it from here.
Thank you, Akshat. Now that we have seen the overall ACES spending, its growth, and the factors which are driving that growth, let's double click on each segment here. Here we are looking at the autonomous vehicle engineering share and spend. The spend for autonomous vehicle accounts for around 14% of the overall ACES ER&D, and which is approximately around $12 billion as of 2022. And some of the sizable investments are coming in from not just the automotive firms, but from the non-automotive firms, which are tech players such as Google, Apple, and Uber. And going ahead, we are expecting a growth in this market around 20% by 2025. And this growth will be primarily driven by the initiatives in the areas of ADAS, which is the Advanced Driver Assistance System, sensor fusion technology, computer vision, and active and passive safety technologies. If we look at the right, we can see the levels of autonomy. The current autonomy features are limited to ADAS and L1 and L2 level features, which are available only in the premium segment use cases. And we are still working towards level 3 level of autonomy, and it is available only on few models as they are very expensive to engineer and require a certain level of upgraded infrastructure along with some regulatory backing. When we talk about L4 and L5, we can see that the ER&D focus remains high in this area from enterprises, but the market adoption is low, and it's because of high complexities, high costs, safety concerns, and government regulations as well. Areas of investments by enterprises in technology clusters, if we look at the left bottom, we've seen that there is a high patent activity in the areas of associate design, which is the system on chip design and architecture, and machine learning and computer vision algorithms. And we are also seeing investments in partnerships with the chipset makers and software firms, because there are because these are relatively newer domains for the automakers. And we are also seeing investments in the sensor fusion technology because it is key for developing the autonomous functionality. And we have seen players such as General Motors, Tesla, Volkswagen, who are spending heavily in this area. Enterprises are also focusing on safety systems, and these investments are primarily driven by compliance requirements, and a significant amount of investments are going into testing the autonomous vehicles so that they can become road capable. While we have seen investments in the path planning and localization, which are really two important areas, but the current focus is on utilizing the available open source platforms such as Google Cartographer, ROS, Apollo, which help in implementation of algorithms that are required for SLAM, which is the simultaneous localization and mapping. Akshat, we can move to the next slide. So let's look at the connected vehicle segment. So the engineering spend for the connected vehicle segment is, as you can see, around 23 to 25% of the overall ACES spending. And it is expected to grow at a rate of 25% by 2025. And which you can see is, very good range. And this is because of its usage in both traditional and emerging vehicle segment, as well as because of the increasing emergence of internet and cloud-enabled features. And there is a huge opportunity for automakers to generate revenue from the connected engineering vehicle segment. Not just this, but the automakers are also monetizing the data, which is available from the connected vehicles, and they are offering services like personalized infotainment, usage-based insurance, subscription-based diagnostics, and a bunch of other services, which is why there is a sizable spending in this area. And if you look at the top right, we see value-added services and features that can be enabled through connected services, and which we were talking about just a minute ago. We can see here that the enterprises are partnering with finance and insurance players like Chase and Wells Fargo to develop a new kind of insurance, which is based on the usage and which is based on the driving behavior. And with the help of payment platforms like PayPal and Visa, automotive players are also coming up with in-car payment mechanisms as well. So by partnering with telecom players like Ericsson and Verizon, automotive companies are enabling features like vehicle hotspots, vehicle to network access, and many more, as you can see. On a broader level, various ecosystem entities are enabling the connected vehicle experience in the form of value-added services and features. Now let's talk about some of the enterprise investment priorities, which is the infotainment system. So infotainment systems are integrating the OTT streaming services, payment platforms, smart assistants to improve customer experience. And that's why we see that it's a top priority area for enterprises. V2X, communication and real-time information from V2X components improve navigation. It provides traffic updates and helps the user in planning their journey. And that's why we see that it's a top priority for, the automotive enterprises. And going ahead, OEMs are bringing more differentiated products to a large customer base. And these connectivity features are, now becoming mass market instead of just being premium offerings, and which is why we see a huge growth in spend in this area. Akshat, can we move to the electric vehicle segment? Yeah. So driven by the environmental concern, as Akshat already mentioned, and the need for sustainability as well, and the regulatory pressure from all the governments across the globe and worldwide, Vehicle electrification ER&D is the area that sees the highest amount of spending, which is around 54 to 56%. Not just the environmental concerns, the need for vehicle modernization using software, digital technologies, and advanced manufacturing methods, these are driving the EV adoption globally. And we can see that the electric segment is growing. The growth rate was 21 to 23, and it is going to continue its momentum till 2025. And the largest market for this EVs are going to be China, EU, and the US. Because of the increased demand for the battery electric vehicles, as Akshat was mentioning, and there are different varieties of EV vehicles as well, which is the plug-in hybrid, there is a rise in investments in the EV segments. And also range anxiety being a common concern for EVs, we can see a significant spending, not just from the automakers, but also from the independent players in the battery space. So considering all these factors, we are all, because of the huge demand, because of the regulatory pressures, we are seeing investments in EE architecture, propulsion system, and power electronics. And we are seeing, apart from this investments, we are seeing several partnerships and an entire ecosystem being built around, to bring an electric vehicle into picture. The partnerships with players like battery technology suppliers, infrastructure providers, finance players, and most importantly with government are some of the crucial ones. Akshat, now let's move to the shared vehicles. Yeah, thank you. So as we see, the shared mobility spending is around $6 billion, and it is expected to grow at a rate of 8 to 10% by 2025. And so this growth is primarily driven by mobility as service platforms and some related to the software and applications development within this. And if we look at, the left side here, we see investments in ride hailing and pooling platforms, which are the highest, but we can expect a growth in mobility as a service, ride sharing, urban air mobility. When we are, if you look at the right, we see there are several players such as Uber, Yulu, which are focusing on building the functional aspects, which are the features of shared mobility. And there is also a diverse ecosystem that exists for the engineering area, where several non-automotive players such as AWS, Cisco, IBM are partnering with the shared mobility firms to develop digital products and platforms for the market. Yeah, now that we have looked at ACES in detail, what is next in the automotive industry?
And yeah, Sushmita, let me take it from there. So folks, the pace of innovation is such, and the automotive world, now that there is so much innovation going around with software, data, new kinds of hardware, right? I think the pace at which this world is evolving has also really accelerated, right? So while we saw, the kind of estimates that we have around how the ACES themes would grow, there is something new that has cropped up in the automotive world as well, right? So that's something that we discussed. So that's essentially around software-defined vehicles. And if we turn a page here, right, what essentially are software-defined vehicles, right? So we are now moving away from having a lot of hardware centricity in the vehicle. Of course, you really need the foundational hardware, but the intent of the automotive ecosystem is to define more and more features in software rather than them being hard-coded into physical hardware or components, right? So that in a sense means that a lot of features of the automobile would start going through the journey that we see for software products, software platforms, right? In the sense becoming much more personalized, delivering a much more enhanced and customized user experience there is a lot of scope for us to continuously evolve those features of the automobile, right? Be it in alignment with the customer preferences, or say if the market is moving towards a certain direction, if there are regulations as an example, the pace of evolution and adaptation can be much higher. Software-defined vehicles, they also have one unique feature, which is services-oriented architecture, right? So these features are built in a way that there are a lot of common services that they share, which facilitates for greater efficiencies in the overall design of the vehicle or overall engineering of the vehicle. Now, is it an enhancement over the autonomous, connected, electric, and shared mobility? Definitely yes, right? So, while those themes in themselves are such big innovations for the automotive world, the software-defined angle, takes them to a whole different level, be it around optimization, be it around adaptability or customization, right? And if I take some examples, let's see on the autonomous world, right? What can an SDV help achieve, right? So the perception capabilities of, say, the radars and lidars, right, that can be enhanced on an ongoing basis. If you look at the connected side of things, right, the level of personalization that can be offered in the vehicle, given it's software driven, it can be much more than, if you are still relying on the traditional approach of resting everything in the hardware. On the electric front, what's happening is there are avenues to monitor the energy consumption of the electric vehicles, which also helps in tracking and tracing, say, the spikes, and help achieve some optimization of energy consumption. And as Sushmita mentioned, right, the mileage is the biggest concern around adopting electric vehicles now. So if we are able to track it better, of course, the adoption could also become better. Now, if we take an example from the shared world, right? So the kind of integration that SDV could facilitate for an automobile into a shared mobility platform could be next level, right? Potentially your mobile and mobile app, they get eliminated because, you could connect directly through the vehicle, those kind of aspects could be achieved. And hence, it's again a great enhancement for the shared world as well. If you look at the next page, we are already seeing a lot of investment from the automotive world into the software-defined vehicles, right? So the large OEMs, a lot of them, we can see some of those examples on the next page, that a lot of OEMs have also made a play for software-defined vehicles. There are a lot of announcements being made by OEMs across the world, be it in the North American market, Europe, or APAC, right? I think one common observation that we can make across, we are sharing some examples here, but across the board, what we are seeing is that this journey towards software-defined vehicles, the OEMs are very much willing to partner on this journey, with varied kinds of entities, right? So be it tier ones, be it the big tech players or the hyperscalers as we know them, or be it niche hardware providers, right? Or even, the full-blown hardware providers like NVIDIA, right? So there is a lot of partnership happening in this world for these OEMs to really achieve this journey on SDVs. So we are actually anticipating that an ecosystem will be developed by most OEMs around building these SDVs or around elevating the way vehicles rely on software. Right? Now, as this journey towards software, this has really become necessary for the automotive world. And, while the SDVs is something that we talk about, that's really the center stage of how the automotive world is looking to adopt software in their vehicles, in the vehicle features, right? We are also seeing similar proliferation of software across the value chain of the automotive world. So if you look at the next view, essentially, products sitting in the middle, and, a lot of focus, of course, is on the product and how can we use software to enhance our product. But on both the sides, right, if you look at operations, be it manufacturing operations, supply chain operations, even sales operations, right, the automotive world is exploring software in a big way to optimize these operations, to enhance in case these are touching the customers to enhance the experience of the customers. Right? And on the services front as well, there are so many fronts of new services being offered by the automotive OEMs, right? So services-based models were unheard of in this automotive world, right? But now we are seeing the OEMs themselves offering vehicle subscription services. There are a lot of value-added services around predictive maintenance, fleet management, etc., that these OEMs are able to give, given there's a lot of software in the vehicles, there is a lot of data being generated and analyzed, and hence the capability of enterprises, the OEMs, to give additional services to their customers that has gone up. So, look out for software-defined vehicles as the next big revolution in this space, right? Our thesis is though, and this is something that we hear in the market as well, is this something that will totally replace the autonomous connected electric shared themes? My answer to that is no, really. It's more an augmentation to those themes. And the software defined angle will really take those themes to the next level, and next level of value realization for customers as well. So that's something I wanted to talk about. ACES, software defined vehicles, right? These for sure are going to become big, right? But is the journey towards these themes, is it going to be very smooth? I believe not, right? And there are some challenges that OEMs, tier ones, even the tech companies who are trying to play their part in this world, there are some challenges that they'll have to overcome to really be able to scale these up. And Sushmita, why don't I invite you back into the conversation to talk us through some of those potential challenges in this world?
Sure, Mike. Yes. So we have spoken with several automotive enterprises and understood the key issues and the challenges in adoption of ACES and SDV, and we have tried presenting the top challenges here. Yeah. The first and major roadblock is the lack of software expertise for the traditional OEMs. We have heard from Mayank about the increasing software centricity in the automotives in recent times. The new age automotive players like Tesla, Rivian, which have really low time to market and have new age technologies at bay, are putting the legacy OEMs at a disadvantaged position. And to fix this, there is no one particular solution, but going ahead in the longer run, enterprises can plan for the organic growth by making software the central piece of their efforts and concentration first, followed by hiring the right talent, investing in software engineering capabilities, and opening new centers. Here we can see that Mercedes has opened a new software center for developing its in-house software capabilities. And the enterprises can also keep up with the market pace and also stay relevant and short run by forging partnerships with tech players. By forging partnerships.
Sorry about that. I don't know. There's something funny going on with the slides today. It doesn't change anything.
No worries. So I was just telling that, enterprises can forge partnerships in the shorter run and also consider acquisitions of tech companies so that they can spruce up their software capabilities. The next problem we got to understand from the enterprises is data management and monetization. And on an average, we can see that an autonomous and connected car produces approximately around 25 GB data per hour. And with increasing level of autonomy and softwareization, the data is only going to grow. And managing this huge volumes of data has become a significant challenge for the enterprises. The automotive companies should leverage technology and build robust data capabilities to extract insights from this huge volumes of data. And we've already seen in the connected segment that the data monetization has become a new source of revenue. But this data monetization can be materialized only with a proper, data management infrastructure and capabilities at place, and by partnerships with payment platforms, banks, advertising agencies, and insurance players. We are moving to the cybersecurity. So recently, we have seen that, Honda being exposed to a malicious ransomware. And going ahead, these are only going to increase. So with increasing connectivity features, there is increase in, keyless car thefts, EV infotainment system attacks, which are happening and which are becoming extremely common. So OEMs should be extremely watchful, given the, huge repercussions. So continuous monitoring, conducting risk assessments, and performing security audits internally or with the involvement of external partners, can help effectively mitigate these challenges. But one important note is, while partnering with external players, the enterprises should make sure that, the partners are adhering to the cybersecurity rules. Enterprises should also actively incorporate cybersecurity considerations throughout the life cycle of vehicles, which is from the conception and design to the decommissioning of the vehicles. Lack of infrastructure. So without the required infrastructure, the adoption of ACES will be difficult. And in order to mitigate this, enterprises can consider partnerships with charging infrastructure providers, and most importantly, with governments to optimize the capital investments and to maximize the benefits that they can derive. And here we can see major enterprises like Volkswagen and Porsche partnering with two different entities for their charging solutions and for their e-mobility. Moving towards understanding the problem or challenge of compliances. On an average, an automotive company has to meet around 500 compliances, which are legal, environmental in nature. And on top of them, there are industry standards, such as ACES, ISO 262620, just naming a few, which the enterprises have to meet. And steering this regulatory maze is really burdensome. And in order to address this issue, the enterprises can leverage technology. And also we can see that Renault Group has recently come up with a technology which involves blockchain, so that they help the vehicles in certifying the compliance right from the design to production.
And Sushmita, I believe a lot of this, would tie to talent, right? You talked about software capabilities, data, cybersecurity, even compliance, right? So you really need the right talent, in your engineering teams to be able to, build out and, to be able to successfully take on, the requirements across these very diverse teams. And very interestingly, right, when we talked to enterprises, nearly 86% of them highlighted that talent is the biggest challenge that they are facing today, right? In terms of being able to start on initiatives, or even if they've started, to be able to scale up those initiatives, talent has been a big impediment, right? And the nature of those challenges again have been varied, right? So one, of course, hiring from the market, right? That has been a big challenge for the automotive world. Right now, they've gone into the territory where they've started competing with the high techs, right? That has been a big challenge. That the hiring times tend to be long, right? At times, the positions tend to stay vacant for long times, and hence the projects cannot be started. There is a lot of buildup of obsolete talent in-house, right? So given ACES has really taken center stage, there are a lot of segments, right, which have gone down in relevance. Hence, a lot of obsolete talent, which enterprises don't know how do they leverage that talent, right? They know the automotive domain well, but do not have some of the technical skills. That has been a big challenge. Right? Even when they are hiring the right talent, or they are, say, upskilling the internal pool of talent, right, the challenge is still about having practical experience. So we hear a lot that we have certified talent, but we don't have deployable talent. So that's again a very big challenge. And to top it all, there is attrition, right? Going back to my point around competition from different segments now, the attrition levels are again through the roof, right? Maybe some of that has cooled off a little off late, but my thesis is that it's potentially just a short period of lull, and the entire activity of competition around talent would again pick up very soon, right? But I also want to hear from the group that we have here today, right? Specifically around talent when we talk about, right? What has been your experience? And for that, we have a short poll that we want to run with you folks, right? Just highlight what has been your experience in hiring for automotive engineering talent, more specifically around some of these next generation themes, right? Uh, are you also seeing some of these challenges play out in your organizations? Or, if not, then of course, it's a matter for another conversation. We have a lot to learn from you as to how the world can do better. So maybe 10 seconds more, and then we can review the results. All right, 5 more seconds, folks. So actually not a surprise, right? And I hope all of you can see these results, right? And actually, I also believe that given the situation that we are in, where there is a slight slowdown in some verticals, we are still seeing more of a moderately difficult task of hiring the talent, right? Had it been business as usual, potentially we would have seen more of that top bar really swelling. Right? So that continues to be the reality of the space, right? And as I said, there is a temporary relief that we have potentially going forward. Uh, the entire war around talent that's going to heat up again, right? Which begs the question, right? What do we do about this whole situation, right? So, it's very important to know which skills to invest into, right? What kind of domain areas to invest into, which are going to be very high in demand. Of course, there has to be a context that you add for your specific vertical, but some of those aspects are going to be fairly important, right? So some of our analysis that we've done, we believe that autonomous and electric are going to be the segments where hiring will be very difficult. So, what you see is talent availability. Low talent availability would essentially mean difficulty to hire, right? So essentially, autonomous is that area where there's a lot of fight for talent across verticals, and hence, it's going to be hard for us to hire. The electric segment is very niche, and hence, there's not a lot of scaled talent available in that very segment. Hence, again, the entire talent equation, it's pretty disturbed. Connected and shared, these are segments which can borrow from many existing segments. Hence, the situation will potentially be not as bad, but still pretty grave in that sense, right? And what do you do about this, right? One, of course, knowing which skills, and that's something I talked about, right? There has to be a lot of push around reskilling your talent, right? So identify which skill sets are not as relevant in today's world, and see who you can partner with, how you can facilitate a journey of reskilling that talent and make them deployable on projects for the ACES world, right? Collaborations with organizations and institutes to hire talent afresh, and making sure that that talent is already ready for your problem statements, right? So how do you collaborate with some educational institutions, and even help them form the curriculum which aligns with the industry needs, right? That's going to be very crucial. And then, of course, internally in your business, you need to have those centers of excellence, pockets of competency centers that scale talent around specific areas, say software-defined vehicle, autonomous vehicles, cyber security for vehicles, 5G related connectivity around the vehicles, right? All of those things are going to be fairly interesting for us to explore, right? And then, there's also going to be another angle altogether, which will be around exploring talent from the outer world, the ecosystem, right? That's going to be very crucial. You know, you do all of this, you'll still potentially fall short of your overall talent requirements. And that's where, you need to partner with the external world. And Akshat, why don't I invite you to talk a little about that?
Thank you, Mayank. So I think there's a whole host of ecosystem entities out there, which in a way, I would say enterprises have no option. And when I say enterprises here, I mean, of course, automotive OEMs, essentially. They have no option but to kind of collaborate. But I think one of the most important ones is service providers, people who can come in and help support, accelerate all the ongoing engineering programs from an ACES and SDV adoption standpoint, right? So Sushmita spoke about a lot of challenges earlier. Then Mike spoke about talent and spoke about what are the common mitigation strategies. So we've seen a bunch of things, right, around lack of engineering expertise, around not having as much of depth around data management, cybersecurity, not having the right kind of infrastructure as well, and then a whole host of regulatory and compliance issues, which are almost a maze for somebody to maneuver through. In that kind of a setup, having the ability to just kind of lean on somebody external who specializes and provides the necessary scale and capability to accelerate is something which is that's really important, and it's very natural that because of that we are seeing a significant amount of outsourcing of ACES and SDV oriented work to the service provider community. There are a lot of reasons for it. We've captured some of them on the page. So essentially, service providers are being sought after to ensure that there is somebody who can come in who has capabilities across these domains, right? Traditionally speaking, maybe this doesn't apply as much to the new breed of software-centric startups who are, who have now a significant play from an ACES standpoint. But if you think of the incumbents, the capabilities on autonomous, connected, electric, and shared, and generally on software, these don't come naturally. There's a very significant need for somebody who brings all of that and then also has decent amount of domain of automotive in the first place to be able to contextualize. Most importantly, sure, I mean, you may have capabilities or maybe you don't have as deep capabilities, but do you have the right kind of scale to really come and accelerate something for an OEM who's trying to compete hard in the market, is fighting a race against competition and trying to show results to the street? Not many can offer, and hence that's one of the key things that enterprises, OEMs, they look forward to from a service provider. Then whether or not they have made the right kind of investments in terms of partnerships. So ACES engineering is not a standalone job. You need the entire ecosystem to come in and bring in all the technology and expertise, right? So they look at a service provider to really orchestrate that ecosystem. So their ability to do that is key for OEMs. Lastly, the investments in infrastructure, in IP, in talent, in everything that they are making to make sure that they are able, right? In that spirit, actually, if you really think about it, service providers are really making a lot of investments. I know we're running pretty much out of time now, so I'll maybe very quickly run through this. But if we look at the ACES service provider landscape, which is something, by the way, we track extensively. If you see on this page, we've run this fairly detailed process through our proprietary methodology called peak matrix assessment on the automotive ACES engineering market. This was in 2021, and just for your reference, we are doing a refresh of it as we speak, and we're not more than a few weeks away in coming out with the refreshed ratings. Many of you might be interested, so watch out for that. Should come out very soon. This is the 2021 view, so everybody's on the same page. So we've run this assessment and we cover this market very deeply. And the way we analyze them and what we observed is that the service providers have recognized that this is an important space for them to invest into. So from an infrastructure standpoint, there are lots of investments in COEs, in innovation centers and labs, in labs which are built in partnership with other technology majors, right? and then even acquisitions which are done just specifically to scale up capabilities. And we've seen a bunch of these play out. From an IP standpoint as well, IPs and frameworks, many vendors have invested into things like battery management systems or things around L1 to L3 feature level autonomous features, so IP which can help accelerate that. And you see a bunch of other areas which we've called out as well. In terms of partnerships, we've seen many different kinds of partnerships. Some of them are more on the infrastructure side, and how do you infuse IoT, which is a fundamental tool as far as enabling connected infrastructure is concerned. So how do you partner with some of those majors? Security is another space where we've seen many companies go out and partner with firms. And lastly, which we mentioned towards the end, but I can't highlight the importance of this more, because at the end of the day, service providers do really bring trained quality talent. Right? So all the investments towards certifying employees, making them capable on ADAS themes, safety themes, simulation themes, and really developing them and certifying them, I think that's something that we've seen a bunch of. Right? Anyway, so this ecosystem is evolving. Like I said, we cover this extensively. In fact, I'm going to ask Mayank to come in here, maybe to summarize, whatever we discussed today as we approach the end of this session, but also to very quickly, show you a sort of a complimentary offer that we have for people who joined us. We'll be more than happy to share some insights based on what you see on screen. Mayank, over to you.
Sure. So folks, essentially to summarize, right, we did discuss a fair bit of things that are playing out in the automotive world, right? I think the bottom line is that software has really become the differentiator, right? And for any OEM to take on this journey, it's going to be very important to really leverage the ecosystem to their benefit, right? So within the automotive world or the tech world or the services world, there have to be very strong partnerships that will be required for success there, right? Data, as the world says, data will be the new oil. Even for the automotive world, there is a lot of value to be realized on top of data. And lastly, I think, a lot of this could actually fall flat if you don't have the right talent and talent strategy to manage all of this and tie it all together. Yeah. So with that, let me come to our complimentary offer for everybody who attended the webinar today, right? So based on our coverage of the engineering services space and the automotive engineering service providers, what we will do is, you can choose any two service providers from the long list that you see on your right. And, this, by the way, you can do through a link in the chat window. What we'll do is, for those two selected providers, we'll give you a bit of a view of their engineering services portfolios around the next generation themes of automotive. So we'll touch upon the size of their portfolio, their investments, their partnership ecosystem, their IP, so on and so forth. So essentially, if you engage with them, you will know better as to what kind of capabilities they bring to the table. In case you go against them as competition, then again, of course, that still helps you with some knowledge on your competitors. So, that's broadly what we wanted to cover. We look forward to receiving these from you through the link. And very quickly, a view of what all we bring to the table as a risk group. Let me flash that view for you. So folks, a lot of you would know this, but for others who don't, we have two models. One is the membership model, which is an annual construct through which you get access to all our published research on a variety of themes. It could be around talent, providers, locations, outsourcing best practices, so on and so forth. And more importantly, you get on-demand access to us as analysts of the space. So for one-on-one conversation, for problem-solving support, for brainstorming, right? We can do all of that to you as part of the membership. And then, we can also support you with one-on-one problem-solving through a variety of projects that we can do around sourcing, talent, locations, peer intelligence, right? That's more for the enterprise world. And for the service provider world, it could be around you formulating your strategy for different segments of engineering services, you wanting to be more visible out there in the market, or you looking for some account specific support, right? So that's what I wanted to conclude with. Hopefully this was useful. Very happy to connect offline as well to take the conversation forward.
Thank you, Mike. I think, folks, we are completely out of time already. There are a bunch of questions that we've received. I don't think it will be good to take everybody's time to answer those. We will take them off, and we answered a couple of them, during the conversation itself on chat. We'll take the others offline. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Take care.